we are now ready to use the new authentication class that we have created. And just as a reminder, what we are going to do is to inject an instance of the auth class to each of these widget classes. So let's start off with the signing page. And as we can see here, we are accessing the Firebase auth instance directly. And what we want to do instead is to use our new auth class. So the first step is to add an auth instance as a dependency to the signing page. And we can do that by typing final. And in this case, we're going to use auth base auth like this. And in order to use this, we need to import auth. And then we're going to update our constructor by adding a required this.auth argument like this. And with this change, the signing page now has access to the auth object. So we can use it to replace this call with auth.signin anonymously like this. And here we get a compiler error because the return type is no longer an auth result. And instead, here I can declare a variable of type user and I can call it user like this. And when I call onSignin, I can just pass user as a parameter. And here we have another error because the type user is not the same type that this function takes. So I need to also update this argument to be of type user like this. And now that we have made this change, we can see that this import is no longer necessary because this file no longer depends on Firebase auth. So we can remove this. And now that we have updated the sign-in page, let's move on to the home page. So here we can update this page in the same way that we have just done for the sign-in page. So we're going to add a final auth base auth like this. And in the constructor, we're going to say required this.auth. And we can also replace this call with await auth.sign out and remove the previous call to Firebase auth. And once again, we can remove Firebase auth from the list of imports like this. And the home page is now ready to go. Finally, we are going to open our landing page. And in here, there are a few changes that we need to make. So to start off, we are going to add a new instance of type auth base. So final auth base auth like this. Then we can import the auth file. And also we can add a constructor, which will be called landing page. And this will take a required this.auth parameter, just like this. And then we're going to replace our code to Firebase auth.instance. So instead, here we can type in user equals await. And here we can't really just type in auth.current user. You can see that the compiler doesn't recognize this. And the reason is that auth is actually defined inside the landing page class. But in here, we are inside landing page state. So in order to get access to this, here we have to type in widget dot. And this is what will do it for us. So just remember this, that every time you want to access a dependency that is inside a stateful widget, you need to say widget dot and then the name of the dependency. Okay, so the next step is to replace all usages of Firebase user with our new generic user class. So let's do that. And you can see that our update user method takes a parameter of type Firebase user. So let's change that to user like this. And also we need to update the Firebase user state variable. So here we're just going to say user. And because we have now removed all usages of types from Firebase auth, then we can remove this line from the top of our file. Okay, so now we can scroll to the bottom, and if we move our cursor over to the sign-in page, the compiler reminds us that we need to pass in the additional auth parameter that we have added to the constructor. And this makes sense because auth is now a dependency for the sign-in page and the home page. So here we're going to type in auth widget.auth for the sign-in page, and for the home page, auth widget.auth like this. And once again, because this class is a stateful widget, we can't just type auth here, but instead we need to say widget.auth. Okay, so our landing page is now ready to go as well. And there is just one more thing that we need to do. In fact, just as we are passing in the auth object to our sign-in page and home page, we also need to pass it to the landing page itself. So if we open our main file, we can locate our landing page over here, and here we need to provide an instance of type auth base. However, auth base is just an abstract class, and instead we're going to pass in an instance of type auth, like this. And as usual, we need to import the correct file so that the auth class is visible. And just to be clear, the reason that we can use auth here is that the auth class implements the auth base interface. And so every time that we need to pass an argument of type auth base, then it is always valid to use an instance of type auth. Okay, so this was the last change that we needed to do to enable dependency injection and use the new auth class that we have defined. Now this is a good time to restart our application and verify that everything still works as intended. So what I can do is to hot restart the application, and after the app recompiles and restarts, I can now tap on Go Anonymous, and this takes me to the home page, and I can also try to log out, and I'm back to the sign-in page. Okay, so it looks like we are all good. Now, I'm aware that we made a lot of different changes on this video, and if anything is not working for you, I encourage you to go through all the steps once again to ensure that you have made all the necessary changes. And now that we have updated our sign-in flow, we're going to do a quick recap in the next video.